The summer of 2008 was supposed to be the Thompson family's fresh start. New jobs, new house, new life in Missouri. But somewhere along Interstate 70, between the Kansas wheat fields and their future, 6 people vanished in 12 minutes at a rest stop. For 16 years, nobody knew what happened in those 12 minutes. Then, artificial intelligence learned how to see through the grain of old Dashcam footage, and the truth was worse than anyone imagined. July 17, 2008, 11:28 p.m., Colby Rest Stop, Interstate 70, western Kansas. The Thompson family minivan pulled into the nearly empty lot, headlights sweeping across 3 semi-trucks and a lone sedan. David Thompson, 42 history teacher, stretched his back as he stepped out. 600 miles since Denver, 400 still to go to Springfield. His wife Sarah, 39, woke the kids. Jake, 16, grumpy about the stop. Emma, 14, helping with her younger siblings. Olivia, 11, carrying her stuffed rabbit. Ben, 7, asleep on Jake's shoulder. The rest stop was standard interstate infrastructure. Concrete block building, vending machines humming, moths circling the fluorescent lights. One security camera at the entrance, grainy, black and white, recording at 2 frames per second to save storage. The timestamp showed 11:29:14 when the family walked inside. David headed to the men's room. Sarah took the younger kids to the family restroom. Jake and Emma waited by the vending machines, sharing earbuds, listening to Jake's iPod. Marta Hernandez was mopping the women's restroom when Sarah came in with Olivia and Ben. She remembered because Ben was wearing a Superman cape over his pajamas, and it made her smile. Sarah asked if the water fountains worked. They did. That was 11:34 p.m., the last confirmed sighting of any Thompson family member by a witness who knew they'd seen them. Outside, parked between 2 semi-trucks, invisible to the security camera, a white panel van sat with its engine running. Missouri plates, mud splattered on the sides, tinted windows. The driver watched the rest stop entrance through his side mirror. He'd been waiting since 10:45, letting other families pass, waiting for the right one. The Thompson minivan had Colorado plates, full of boxes and suitcases, moving, perfect. Nobody would miss them immediately. But here's what made that night different. Trucker Jim Wallace from Topeka was parked in the 3rd semi. His new Dashcam, a cheap model from a truck stop in Oklahoma, was recording on a loop. Low quality, grainy 8-hour segments before overwriting. He'd installed it after an insurance scam attempt 2 months earlier. The camera faced forward, catching a slice of the parking lot in its peripheral vision, just enough to matter 16 years later. 11:37 p.m. The Thompson family exited the rest stop. The security camera caught them walking back toward their minivan, Ben now on David's shoulders, Emma carrying snacks from the vending machine. They disappeared from the camera's view as they entered the parking lot. That's where the official timeline ended for 16 years. Family walks to van, family drives away, family vanishes. Theory was they'd gotten lost, had an accident, drove into a ravine somewhere. Thousands of hours searching, no trace. But Jim Wallace's Dashcam saw what happened next. Too dark, too grainy to understand in 2008, but it saw. 11:38 p.m. The white panel van's door slid open. 2 men stepped out. Fast, purposeful, they'd done this before. One walked directly to David Thompson, who was buckling Ben into his car seat. Hit him with something, a telescoping baton maybe. David collapsed. Sarah screamed, the sound muffled but visible in her body language on the distant grainy footage. The second man was already at the passenger side, blocking escape. Jake tried to run. 16 years old, track team, fast. Didn't matter. The first man caught him in 3 steps, arm around his throat, dragged him back. Emma and Olivia were pulled from the back seat. Ben, still strapped in his car seat, was lifted out entirely, seat and all. The whole family was forced into the panel van. 43 seconds, start to finish. One of the men then got into the Thompson minivan, started it, followed the panel van as both vehicles pulled out of the rest stop, turned east onto I-70. The Dashcam caught their taillights disappearing into the Kansas darkness. Jim Wallace was asleep in his cab 10 feet away. He wouldn't check his Dashcam for 3 days, and by then the footage of that night was already overwritten by newer recordings. He had no idea he'd witnessed a kidnapping. 11:52 p.m. Marta Hernandez finished her shift, noticed the rest stop was empty except for the trucks. Normal for a Thursday night. She drove home to Colby, went to bed, didn't think about the family with the Superman cape kid until 2 weeks later when the missing persons report hit the news. By then, her testimony was fuzzy. Maybe 11:30? Maybe 11:45? She couldn't be sure. July 18th, 5 a.m., 400 miles east in Columbia, Missouri, Robert Kemp sat in the hospital waiting room. His wife Linda was dying. Kidney failure, liver failure, heart growing weaker. She'd been on the transplant list for 3 years, but her rare blood type made matches nearly impossible. The doctors had given her 2 weeks, maybe less. Robert had spent those 3 years researching, planning, preparing. He owned a farm 40 miles north of Columbia, isolated, no neighbors for miles. He had medical knowledge from his time as an Army medic in Vietnam. He had nothing left to lose. The Thompson family had been chosen carefully. David had posted on a moving forum about their relocation, mentioned Sarah was a nurse, would be working at University Hospital in Columbia. Robert had hacked the hospital's employee database, found Sarah's medical records from her employment screening. Blood type O, negative, universal donor. Tissue markers suggesting broad compatibility. The children were young, healthy, genetic lottery winners, perfect candidates. But here's what nobody knew for 16 years. The kidnapping was recorded by 3 different dashcams. Jim Wallace's caught the abduction. Trucker Maria Santos from Amarillo caught the 2 vehicles passing her 12 miles east. Trucker Devin Wright from Detroit caught them exiting at a rural Missouri interchange at 3:47 a.m. But dashcam technology in 2008 was primitive. Truckers regularly overwrote footage. Nobody thought to check. The cameras were for insurance, not solving murders. The farm where Robert Kemp took the Thompson family had been in his family since 1952. Cornfields on 3 sides, woods on the 4th. A storm cellar converted into something else. Medical equipment bought piece by piece from closing rural hospitals. Surgical tools from military surplus. A makeshift operating room that would never pass any inspection but didn't need to. He had 3 accomplices. His brother Michael, former paramedic, lost his license for stealing drugs. His son Jason, 25, would do anything to save his mother. And Dr. Patricia Morse, Linda's sister, a surgeon who'd lost her practice for malpractice but still remembered how to cut. The Thompson family was kept sedated for the initial processing, blood tests, tissue typing, compatibility checks. Everything had to be perfect. No room for error. Linda Kemp was wheeled into the farm's storm cellar at 6 a.m. The first surgery began at 7. Sarah Thompson was the primary donor. Her kidney first, carefully removed, transported the 12 feet to Linda's operating table. Then liver segments, then corneas, then everything else that could be harvested. David was next, then Jake. The younger children were supposed to be spared, held for future need. But complications arose. Linda's body began rejecting the kidney. They needed more tissue, more options. Emma became the backup, then Olivia, then even little Ben. By sunset on July 18th, the Thompson family had been reduced to biological components, and Linda Kemp had received the transplants she needed. She died anyway. July 20th, 2:34 p.m. Her body had fought too hard for too long. The transplants were perfect, but she wasn't. Robert held her hand as she passed, whispered that he'd tried, that he'd done everything. She never knew what everything meant. The 4 conspirators buried the Thompson family in 6 separate locations across 3 counties. The minivan was stripped, crushed, sold as scrap metal. The panel van was burned in a field, reported stolen. Robert Kemp lived 8 more years, died in 2016 from a heart attack while mowing his lawn. Michael overdosed in 2012. Jason killed himself in 2014, left a note that just said, "I'm sorry," 17 times. Dr. Patricia Morse moved to Mexico, died in a car accident in 2019. They took the secret with them. The Thompson family stayed on missing persons lists. Age-progressed photos of the kids appeared on milk cartons, websites, true crime shows. Sarah's parents never stopped searching. David's mother died believing they were alive somewhere. March 2024. Artificial intelligence company Clearsight AI announced a breakthrough in video enhancement. Their new algorithm could extract detail from severely degraded footage. pulling signal from noise previously thought impossible. They offered free services to law enforcement for cold cases. Kansas State Police submitted everything from the Thompson disappearance, including traffic cam footage from I-70 that night. The AI found Jim Wallace's dashcam first. He'd sold the truck in 2009, but the new owner had kept the dashcam as a novelty, never used it, tossed it in his garage. When the police appeal went out for any footage from July 2008, he remembered it, dug it out, found it still had the memory card, 8 hours of rolling footage from July 17th, recorded over on July 20th. The Thompson kidnapping was in hour 3, barely visible in the corner of the frame. Clearsight AI took 27 hours to process 8 hours of footage, frame by frame, pixel by pixel, reconstructing information from digital ghosts. When they finished, the enhanced footage showed everything: the men's faces, the panel van's license plate, the minivan being driven away. The Kansas plate MVK 2847 became Missouri plate FTR 8396. Registered to Robert Kemp, deceased, address on file. The farm had been sold in 2017, now owned by a suburban couple who used it for weekend getaways. When FBI arrived with ground-penetrating radar, the new owners thought it was a mistake. Then the radar found the first body, then the second, then all 6, scattered but findable. Dental records confirmed the Thompson family, or what remained of them. The storm cellar still had the operating tables. Rust and time hadn't erased the bloodstains completely. DNA testing found traces of all 6 family members: Sarah's blood on the main table, David's on the secondary, the children's everywhere, like they'd tried to run, tried to escape, tried to live. In a locked filing cabinet, investigators found Robert Kemp's journals, detailed notes on the procedures, the transplants, the disposal. He'd documented everything, thinking maybe medical science would understand someday. Would forgive. July 17, 2024. Exactly 16 years later, the Thompson family was finally buried. 6 coffins, closed obviously, in a cemetery in Springfield where they'd never made it to live. Sarah's parents, both in their 80s now, stood in the rain. David's brother flew in from Seattle. Emma's best friend from Denver, now 30, with kids of her own, spoke about the girl who'd wanted to be a veterinarian. Jake's girlfriend from high school, married now, remembered his laugh. The dashcam footage, enhanced and cleaned, was released to the media. Watching the kidnapping in clear detail was horrific. Seeing 7-year-old Ben in his Superman cape being carried to the van broke people. The speed of it, the efficiency, the planning. 43 seconds to destroy a family. The public demanded answers, but everyone involved was dead. No justice, just truth. 16 years too late. Jim Wallace, the trucker whose dashcam caught it all, flew to Springfield for the funeral at his own expense. He stood in the back, 73 years old now, retired, haunted. He'd been right there, 10 feet away. Asleep while a family was stolen. He'd had the evidence on his camera for 3 days before it was overwritten. If he'd known, if he'd looked, if he'd been awake. The what-ifs would kill him within a year. Heart failure, the death certificate would say. But his family knew it was guilt. The rest stop at Colby was renovated in 2025. New lights, new cameras, panic buttons, 24-hour security. A memorial plaque was installed near the entrance. In memory of the Thompson family. May all travelers find their way home safely. Someone leaves flowers there every July 17th. Superman action figures appear beside them, for Ben. Nobody knows who brings them. The enhanced dashcam footage became mandatory viewing at trucker safety seminars. Look for suspicious vehicles. Report strange behavior. Check your recordings. You might be the only witness. The FBI created a cold case dashcam database, collecting old footage from truckers nationwide. 7 other cold cases were solved in the first year. Families found answers, bodies found rest. But the Thompson case remained the worst. 6 people taken for organs that couldn't save a dying woman. A family destroyed for a desperate man's impossible hope. Children murdered for spare parts. The medical equipment from the farm was studied, then destroyed. The surgical notes were sealed. Linda Kemp's grave was unmarked at her family's request. Shame too heavy for stone. In the end, it took 16 years and artificial intelligence to see what human eyes had missed. A crime hidden in plain sight on magnetic tape, waiting for technology to catch up to evil. The Thompson family had driven 9 hours toward a new life and found death instead, all because they stopped at the wrong place at the wrong time and had the wrong blood type. The last image of them alive is from the rest stop security camera, 11:37:42 p.m., walking back to their van, David carrying Ben, Sarah holding Olivia's hand, Jake and Emma sharing earbuds. A normal family on a long drive, 43 seconds from the end. The timestamp burns in the corner of the frame, marking the last moment when the Thompsons were still whole, still together, still believing they'd reach Missouri by morning. They did reach Missouri, just not the way they'd planned.